there, crafty friends. It's Tina the Scrappin' Rabbit, and today is the second day for the stamp Anniething September 2017 release, and this is the stamp that we are featuring today. She is Holly, especially for you, and I created a card using my Cricut, and so let me go ahead and share with you what I made. I made a Z-fold card, and I used an SVG from the SVG Cutting Files, and so I colored her up with my Copics and put her on top, and then basically the card opens like this, and so you have a sentiment there, and then it stands like that, so it's really just super cute. And so let me go ahead and share with you how I put together this card using my Cricut. So I'm on Design Space and I'm logged into my account, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to click on New Project, which is right here, this circle with the plus sign. And so on the left hand side it gives you all the different things that you can look at, different projects, images, text, shapes. I want to click on Upload because I want to upload an SVG cut for my Z-fold card. If you have not done this, you're going to click on Upload Image, and it's going to take you to where you can browse your computer, and then you can pull up the file that you want. And you just want to make sure that when you have your SVG, you want to make sure that it is in an unzipped form, because it will not load if it's in a zipped file. So now I've already done that, and my image right here for the Z-fold slide card is right here, so I'm going to click on it, and you can see this green box showing that it is highlighted, and I'm going to go down here on the bottom where it says Insert Image and click on that. So now my image is loaded onto my canvas, and as you can see it's grouped together with this box. And for SVG Cutting Files, she'll always put a black circle right there, and that circle is to help you find the correct size, because not all files will load up at the intended size. And for SVG Cutting Files, this black circle is supposed to be 1 inch, and then that will give you the size that the file was created for. What I'm going to do first is, before I size anything, I want to put my card together. And so the first thing that I'm going to do, since this is all zipped together, I can't click on individual things right now because it's all put together in a group. And so on this upper right hand corner, I'm going to click Ungroup, and it's going to make everything separated. So now when I click on something, I can move it around. Well, what I want to do is, with this stitching, it is not connected to my piece, my card base. So if I click on this and I move it, you're going to see that the stitching did not move with it. Well, I need that to stay together. So I'm going to undo that move, which is right here. And then I'm going to select it by drawing a box around this entire thing, which includes the stitching and the box. And I took too much there, so I'm going to get my little box a little bit lower, because it connected those top pieces. I don't want those top pieces, so I'm just going to connect these here. Once I have those selected, I'm going to go to the bottom right and click where it says Attach. You're going to see this little paper clip, and what that does is it attaches the two things that you have selected, just like paper clipping them together. So if I click on that, that stitching is now going to be connected, so if I move everything or move them around, they're not going to be separated. So all the cuts and the stitching will remain with that card base. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and put my card together before I change sizes for anything. And I can see here that when I slide my pieces around, they're going behind. So I'm going to take this one right here and I'm going to send it to the back layer. And if you go to the Arrange, right here, click on Arrange at the top bar, it's going to tell you where you want it to go. So I want it to be the back layer, so I'm moving it to the back. And now when I move all my pieces, they're going to be right on top, since my card base is the back image. And so if I click on these layers and slide them around, I can get them to go where I want them to go, and then I can just make them, place them where I want for my card. I don't need this black circle anymore because I know I want to size my card together, so I'm just going to go ahead and select it and hit the red X, and it's going to make it erase it. Now that I have my card put together, I'm going to go ahead and select all of it, and I'm going to group it. So going back to this upper right hand corner where it says Group, I initially ungrouped everything, but now I'm going to group it back together. So when I do size it, it's all going to size together as one piece. So all my layers will continue to match. Up across this top bar, it tells you what size it currently is. And currently it is 12.188 inches wide and 5 inches high. I want my card to be an A2 size, and so that means the height should be 4 1/4 and the width should be 5 1/2. So since this is at 5 inches, I'm going to change this size right here, and so just by selecting it, I can go ahead and plug in 4.25, which is my 4 1/4 size, and everything is going to change in the same dimension. So it's going to be, because this lock right here, this lock keeps everything, so when the height changes, the width will change accordingly. So if I go ahead and click enter, it's going to change my size, and I'm going to do, now I'll have 4 1/4 inches high for my card, and then once this is folded, this should be 5 1/2 for an A2 size card. So this is the size that I want, and now when I'm looking at my card, I can look at the different kinds of layers that I have here and decide if I want to add or embellish. So this is where I usually do the design part kicks in, and if I wanted to add additional layers. For instance, I want to add a layer to this piece right here. So now that I have it sized, I'm going to go ahead and ungroup it. Now my attached piece is going to stay together. The cuts with this big piece will stay together. But now all my layers are going to be individual. So if I click on them, they are going to be the individual pieces. Well, if I want to add a piece here, so I'm going to go ahead and take this big piece and I'm going to size it to fit in this square right here. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to duplicate it. Upper right hand corner, if I click on duplicate, it's just like copying it and pasting it. So I don't want it to be this long. I just want it to fit right in this area here. So if I unlock this, I can change the width without changing the height. So if I change one, it's not going to change the other. So looking at it, it is 0.787, 0.797, I'm sorry. And then I want to make it smaller. So if I put it over here, and I have this unlocked, now I click on this thing right here, and I slide it over, it's going to change just the width. It depends on if I'm angling it, and I was angling it a little bit, so they both kind of got changed. But I can fix that because I know I want this to be 0.797 to match the other, so I'm going to change that back to 0.797 so that it matches this piece right here. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it where it will fit right in there. Now that I know that I have a layer that I like that's going to go right there, I'm going to go ahead and lock it so that it doesn't get changed. And now I have that extra piece to go across on the inside. Well, if I wanted to add embellishments, I can click on images and I can find different cuts to go on my card. And so for instance, the stamp has the little girl, she's holding the purse, and so if I click on purse, I'm going to get a bunch of images, and then I can choose one to embellish my card. So now this is a really cute one right here, so if I go ahead and click on that, I can insert it onto my card, and then I can add that as an embellishment for the inside, and so that'll be really cute. And so I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, but this is where the designing comes in. I can play with it for a little bit. So as you can see, I added another little layer here, and I'm just kind of playing around with what I want to do. Before I do send it to cut, I do want to make sure that I save my project. So up here in the right hand corner, if you click save, you can go ahead and name your project, and I'm going to name this Z-Fold Card. And save it. That way if anything does go wrong, you have your project saved and you can go back to it and pick up where you left off, because you just never know. Better safe than sorry. So I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. The other thing that you can do when you go to send it to cut it, it will categorize everything by color. So I'm thinking that I want these strips down here to be the same color, but not these two here. I want them to be a little bit different. So if I go to my right bar, it's going to show all the different cuts that I have. And so if I click on the little gray ones, I can change it to a color, whatever color that I want. So like, let's say I want to just change this to a lavender. And then another way that I can do it is to go over here to color sync, and then I can just slide the cuts that I know that I want into the color grouping, so that way when they go to cut, they're going to all be on the same sheet of paper. And then these two will be the same as well. But I do want to change these, so I'm going to go back to my layers, go ahead and click this one, and then if I click in, it's going to get this color groupings, and I'm just going to go ahead and change it to the darker purple, because I want these to all cut different papers, these being the same. So if I go to my Make It, here are all the different cuts. And so I'll cut out my card base, and then I'll pick out the papers to make the rest of these cuts. And that's pretty much it. You just go to continue. It'll find your Cricut device. With mine, it is the Bluetooth. It's the only one that I have set up with my computer right now. And then it'll have me set my material because I have it at custom. For my card base, I'm using the Recollections, Michael's 110-pound cardstock, and just, I mean, it is really thick. And so what I found cuts that best is if you go here to View All and you scroll all the way down, you have this setting for heavy watercolor paper, 140 pounds. That cuts the Michael's Recollection 110-pound cardstock. These ones up here at the top do not. So unless you choose glitter, because then it does like a double cut. So basically that's the whole setup and how all of that works in Design Space. And then you do need to put it on your mat and load it and unload it, etc. But I just wanted to do a review of Design Space to get started. So please feel free to leave me any questions if you have them on anything more that you need to know. I'm happy to do more tutorials, but right now I need to get back to my card and get back to this process video. When I'm playing with an SVG or any kind of a cut for the first time, a lot of times I will cut it out with scrap paper just to see how it works. You don't ever want to cut anything out with the only paper that you have, so always use scratch paper, especially if you're doing it for the first time. So here are all the little cuts. As you can see, I added these three right here that were not originally in the file, and I used this beautiful patterned paper, and it's called Posh and Pink, and it is from Die Cuts with a View. I really am enjoying this stack, and so this is one of those patterns where you can really just make the pattern paper work for you. Instead of having all these different layers, you can just cut it out and it looks really pretty. And so once you have your cut, you are going to want to fold this one down here. This is going to fold backwards, and then I can see I got to separate it just a little bit. This is really thick cardstock, so always be gentle with your cuts because you don't want to rip it once you have it going. So this is going to slide, this is going to fold out, this is going to fold in. And so basically you just want to gently work with it so that you get it to do what you want it to do, because it's going to be a Z fold, and it's going to fold like so. So there is my card base, and then I will be gluing down the layers, and this is my image. I stamped and embossed her already, and I'm going to go ahead and color her with my Copics. And so I'm going to choose my colors and get going with that. I'm going to start by coloring her face, and I'm going to start out with my lightest color, which is E000. I'm going to go in with some of the shading around the edges and then blend it out a little bit. I like to get the shadows going along the hairline and around the sides of the face, because I want the center part of her face to be the lightest. I'm going to add some cheeks with some R20, and then I'm going to blend it out with my E00. Bring the color towards the center of her face, still trying to keep that where her nose would be the lightest part. And so I basically blend it out and go back in to do more shadows, and then I just play with it until I feel like I'm happy with how it looks. This is a bigger stamp, so it does take a few times to smooth everything out and get it looking the way that you want. With smaller stamps, it's a lot quicker to color, but I do enjoy these Stamp Anniething stamps because you really get to play with them a lot, and the faces are bigger, the hair is bigger, everything is just a little bit bigger, and so definitely a lot more fun to color. So now I'm going to go to her neck and her arms, and again, I probably won't use all 4 of the colors because it's a smaller space, but I'm going to add some of the darker shadows and then blend it out with the lighter colors to get her skin tone the way that I want it so that it coordinates with what her face looks like. And then I think I'm going to blend it out with the lightest color, the E000, after adding a few more shadows. Now I like to do her tongue, and for that I use a couple reds, and I use the R05 and the R12, and I find that that looks pretty nice. With the hair, I always go in with my lightest color just to kind of mark out where the highlights are, and then once I have the highlights down, then I'll flick in going from light to dark first, and then going back from dark to light. I kind of rotate. This is a lot of hair, and so I try to blend it out and get as many colors and shading in there as possible. And so I'm flicking in using my E23 to lay down the first layer of color. Then I'm going in with the next darkest, and I'm just kind of playing around. It does take a while for it to start looking like it's supposed to look, but if you just keep doing this and you keep adding the color, eventually it starts to come together and looking like hair that has little reflections on it, which I really like. So the E27 is my darkest color, and so I'm going to go ahead and go from the inside and flick out. And I find that it does help to turn the paper around so that you can get the flicking motion mostly in one direction. And so going in with the dark, now the medium, and then blending it out with the lightest. I did cover up a lot of my highlight this time around, which I usually like to leave more of the highlight open. And so now that I had that, I went in a little bit farther than I would have liked. I'm going to have to make the other side match. But I still think that it turned out okay. My colors are not as contrasting with this color combo. I'm trying to use what I have and come up with new hair combos. And so this one I tried using this selection. A lot of the browns that I bought to have fur for my animals that I color. And so I do want to add to my Copic collection, get more colors so that I can come up with more coloring combos. But this one's turning out pretty nicely for a light brown hair. And so going dark to light, going towards the center of the highlight, just like I did with the other side, and I'm just trying to match it the best that I can so that it doesn't look uneven. And then a lot of times towards the roots, I'll go back in to add a little touch of the dark, and especially where there's shadowing. I do enjoy coloring hair. I was scared to death of it for years and years and years, and then I finally got started. I felt like I had enough Copics to give it a try, and so now I just really, really enjoy it every time that I get to color up another Stamp Anniething stamp with all that wonderful hair. So I continue to go along from dark to light, and then I'm happy with how the hair looks, so I'm going to move on to the dress. So with the dress, I'm going to go with my lightest color, just kind of marking out where I'm going to color the pink, and then I'm going to go in with my medium color to figure out where the shading is going to be. just to give it a little bit of depth. And then I'm going to go back in and blend it out a little bit with my lighter color. And I really want to work on trying to get better at doing folds. So right now I'm going in with the medium color again and blending it out. And I'm just trying to get a few contrasting shades in there with the 3 colors that I'm using. So with the darkest color, the RV34, I'm going to go in over those lines to just kind of give it a little bit more depth and go into the darkest places where there's going to be shadows on the dress. So for the purse, I'm going to go with my tea grays, my tonal grays, and I'm going to make a little black purse. And so I'm just going to start by using some of the darker colors around the edging, and I want to kind of go dark to light with the center of the purse being the lightest, having the highlight on the center. And it's a small space, so I'm just going dark to light instead of light to dark and then dark to light, because it doesn't need that much coloring with it being so small. So using the T5 and then finally going in with the T3 as my lightest color, and then working on blending that through to get a nice even color with a little bit of shading. So now I'm finishing up the purse, and I'm going to do the handle, and then now I have to color up her shoes, and so her shoes have to match her handbag. So I'm going to go with the same color combo and go from dark to light, bringing the lightest color into the center. And they're very tiny, so it's really quick and easy to get a nice blend. Now I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle to the handbag, and I'm using the Nouveau glitter marker, and this is the one that's in silver. And so I'm just carefully dotting it over where the zipper portion would be, and then I'm adding some glitter to the center of her shoes, and it really does sparkle. With the Spectrum Noir sparkle marker, I'm going in over the buttons on her dress, as well as adding that extra bling to her purse. Now it's time to fussy cut it out, and so I'm just going to do that real quick, and I don't think you need to see the whole thing on video. So now that I have all of my pieces cut and my image all colored, I'm going to go ahead and adhere all the layers to the card. I'm using my ATG gun, and so I'm going to start by adding that bottom piece to that bottom strip, as well as the smaller bottom strips that I have, making that little polka dot border along the bottom edge of my card. I do like my ATG gun for quick adhesive, and I can get really good deals at scrapbookpal.com. They have a really good deal on that, ATG refills. And so once I get all of my pieces adhered, the card's going to really start to come together, and I'm going to be really happy with the look, because as I'm designing it, you're never sure if you're happy with the decisions that you make until you finally come to the end and it all comes together. And now I'm going to add my sentiment, and I'm going to use the Jaded Blossom Mini Tag Die 2 for the banner, and I have this stamp set that is a really old one. It's not available anymore, from a stamp company that no longer exists. I believe it was K. Andrew Designs, and I love the sentiment for this stamp. You've got personality, and so I decided to go with that one, and I'm going to go ahead and white emboss it onto the little banner. And so once I use my heat tool to get that ready, then I'll be able to work on stamping the inside. And so I did use the Lucky to Have You for My Friend stamp, and that's from my pink stamper from a really old set called Friendtastic. And now I'm adding the double-sided adhesive foam to pop up both the image and the sentiment to go along the front of my card. I'm going to use the Jaded Blossom Rectangle Dies 2 to add a panel to the back of the card so that I can write a little message. Once I get that adhered, the card will be mostly complete. And then I'm thinking that that one center panel needs a little something more, so I cut out a couple hearts from using the Jaded Blossom Heart Dies 2 from that posh paper pack. And then now my card is complete. I want to thank you so much for stopping by my channel and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed my card, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.